back, everybody. Episode 10, Encountering the Unknown, a lending hand from the other side.
Mm-hmm.
So happy Halloween edition, everybody. So
happy
thank
Halloween.
You again, Dr. Paul Avedanian and my awesome son, Paul Avedanian Jr. So we're finishing, it's the second part of the last episode, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So we just wanted to show some of the cool things for Halloween because we love Halloween, and this will be coming out on Halloween, so we hope everyone is safe out there and enjoys their Halloween.
Yep.
And we got some things from The Walking Dead, obviously Lucille, right? So some Rick Grimes hat here, and who do we have over here?
Some Southern guy.
Southern guys,
I don't know
Easy
my
Top,
name.
sort of, kind of awesome.
All right.
So,
Something like that.
So look like Rick Grimes there with the beard too.
I don't know.
But,
just a little look.
Yeah, maybe Slash and Rick at the same time.
Something like that.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll get serious in a second, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
all right. One second. Next time you see us, we will be different.
Welcome back, Encountering the Unknown, episode 10 again. So second part of a scary episode for us, probably one of the scariest things that we had happened to us, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely.
So where did we leave off last time, Paul?
So I think it was after we had all split up, and then I was coming back and I saw Matthew sitting there, and he was doing the flashlight trick, or asking his grandpa to do the flashlight trick. But I remember I saw this thing on his back, and he was just sitting there. He was oblivious to it, and I remember this thing was like perched on his back, and I was like, ew, like what is that? Like it freaked me out immediately because it was, you shouldn't see it there. And it wasn't glowing or anything. I remember it was like kind of like us.
Like flesh
but just
tone?
On him, which freaked me out even more. And it was like breathing, like almost like that. And I saw these two beams sticking out of his back. And they were like blue, like a light blue, and this thing was inhaling it.
So the beams weren't into the thing; it was just
it was
air
coming out of Matthew,
yeah,
out of his back. But this thing was breathing it in. I saw like it going to its face area, where I was assuming that this noise was originating
like that sucking
from.
noise.
Yeah, like the vacuum sound. And I remember immediately I was like, "Uh-oh!" I went to you immediately,
right? Because you were very nervous, you were very concerned.
Yeah.
And like a comparison would be like to the Dementors, right? The Dementors, how they suck the life, right?
Yeah.
True. So, I mean, you were seeing this real time on his back.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And I remember you came over and told me there's something on Matthew's back, and we have to try and get rid of it. So I remember. So, like, how tall was this thing?
Only like 3 feet tall. It was pretty small, but I remember it was like super veiny. I could see like all veins, and the skin was almost like transparent looking.
Okay.
Like, I don't know, like sickly, or like almost like looking like it was going to die soon. I remember it had really long fingers and fingernails on it. I remember seeing 3 fingers and then like a thumb appendix or whatever that's called. And I remember that, and it was like super dirty looking, but like again, you could see all the veins running through and everything. Sharp, jagged teeth, black eyes. I remember it had like elf ears, and there was no hair on it.
Like Gollum, sort of, too?
Kind of, but smaller.
Like every creature that we fear, right?
Something that you don't want to see.
And how many, did it have feet? What did it have?
I do remember like seeing the feet, but I also don't remember. I think it was only like 3-toed.
I think you said like 3-toed, black nails you had mentioned.
Yeah, I don't remember specific or like focusing on its feet.
I drew it. We're going to put it on there when I find the drawing, but I did draw. It was like the Dead Files where they say, "Is this what you saw, Amy?" And is this what you saw, Paul? And because he was seeing this and I was not, but he was describing it. So it's we'll put that on too.
Yeah, that was weird.
So then I remember you came over. You were very serious. and you said we have to get this off of Matthew, and I'm like, well, so in getting back a little bit, so Matthew for years had like back pain, didn't he?
Yeah,
I remember he had been to doctors and
unexplainable.
stuff. Yeah, and they're like, we don't know what's wrong, and he had been kind of sad over the years too, right? So this thing actually was like attached to him basically.
Yeah.
So do you remember what happened then? So you said we have to call him over and we're going to hold him, and I think you said we're going to use prayer and hold him and try and get rid of this thing. Do you remember that?
I remember when we all gathered up in that one area.
Because he didn't know. We just called him over, I think.
Yeah. But then we were like starting to tell him that, I think I said like there was something wrong or there was something on you. I forget how we told him exactly. He was probably freaked out by it though. And then I think we grabbed him. Like I think we both had hands on him. And we started saying prayers, I think we did.
Yep.
And then he started shaking. Like uncontrollably shaking. It was to the point where you and I, when we were holding him, we were shaking along too, with him.
So I mean, you can't you can't make that up. This is obviously it was very scary. I remember that, and I remember you said it scratched you.
Yeah, I do remember on my right leg. I remember it did scratch me when we were saying the prayers and stuff.
Yeah. It hissed. Upset, obviously, and you stomped on it. I think because I know you went and you said it scratched me, and you stomped down, right?
Yeah, but I remember seeing the marks on my leg for like a second or two, and then it faded away immediately. So that was weird, like how it didn't stay.
But you felt it.
I felt it was like a burning sensation for like a second.
So was it like at that point? Was it climbing down off of him? Like,
at that point it was like detached, but it was like still guarding its area or whatever, which is weird.
And I remember, which I did have, I videotaped some of it. We never actually ever watched it again because of, we just didn't want to see that. But I remember I just started kicking and I started like swearing and saying, get the F off of Matthew. Remember? I remember we're both angry. We're yelling. And then you said, Dad, you're kicking too high. Because, again, Paul can see it. I cannot. I didn't know, how big it is, where it was. But I remember we were both very angry because of what it was doing to our friend, to your best friend here. So then what happened?
Then after that, I remember it like kind of retreated or it ran into the woods where I couldn't see it anymore. And I think we were just talking for a little bit about like to Matthew probably, and to you and what we were going to do from that point and everything. And I remember it wasn't a busy night at that moment.
No, it was like weird. We were like the only people around.
Yeah,
this was behind Little Round Top where it's, it's a nice area and there's like there's a nice little trail there, Chamberlain Way or Chamberlain Ave, I think. But there it was like a little trail, like 3 feet wide that we were working on near the stone wall. So then did it come back? I remember you saying it's trying to slither away and we got to do something. We can't let it get on somebody else. I remember you telling me that, or,
well, I remember
you were upset, you were concerned.
Did go away for a little bit. And then I think I did say that stuff. I was like, oh yeah, we can't let it get away and all that stuff. But then there was a point where I realized that it was probably going to come back, too. So at that point, we were getting ready for it to come back. I remember the area and everything. But then at this point, also some of the spirits started to come too.
Well, I remember you were like, you're like, whatever we can, like I told them last time, told everybody that, a video of you at that age, so how innocent and stuff, and you became like an amazing leader, like to me, and you're like, Dad, come over here, you got to stand here, and Matthew, you stand here, and then you're like, I'm going to stand over here. We formed like a triangle around this thing, and you said we have to get rid of it, whatever that meant. We didn't even know. And then, like you said, I said, well, can't the spirits from here help? And then they started coming out of the woods, I think, both Confederate and Union, right?
Yeah, both.
It was like which was amazing because they were like, they weren't fighting, obviously, and they were working together. So this was in the now.
Yeah.
Which was bizarre. Everything was crazy.
Yeah.
So, and then what happened? It was looking around, wasn't it?
So I remember it was looking around and stuff, and I remember it went back at Matthew another time, but this time I don't think it ever fully got back on or whatever, or it was for a little bit, and then we managed to get him off again doing the prayers and everything, and once again he was shaking, and I think that's when you put your cross on his forehead.
Yeah, his cross.
During that point.
I remember that. I said, don't look him in the eye. We put this, a blessed cross.
And that was the second time.
Yeah.
And then it went off again, went into the woods or whatever. Then I remember we were standing in that one area we were kind of like in a triangle. It was like you here, I was here, and Matthew was here. And then I remember the Union and Confederate soldiers were around us. And then Matthew's grandfather and Captain Billings, they came out of nowhere. And they said that they were going to help us get rid of it. So then we knew that it was going to try and get back on in a final time. Because it had no more, like it didn't have a food source anymore. And it was desperate. So it was like, I'll try one more time and then I'll be out of here or whatever. So it was perfect the way it was set up, because then it was almost like a trap for this thing. And then when it came back the third time, it attempted to jump on Matthew, but that was when his grandfather and Billings stood in front of him quickly, like at the last second.
Captain
and then
Billings,
they took
who
it.
was from 20th Maine. He was
who
under Colonel
we've mentioned
Chamberlain.
before.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was... I remember you said that exactly at that time. And then did they take it up? Like, what happened? They just vanished?
No, I remember like a pathway or like a doorway opened, and they went with it, and they were gone. Like, I couldn't see them again. Rationalize what happened, how they disappeared. It was like they just walked in and they were gone. The whole thing was gone. Yeah. Anything I had seen with them was gone. So it wasn't like I saw them leave, then the door or whatever it was closed. No, it was just all right after they stepped in, it was gone. So I don't know. Very strange.
So then did the other guys like dissipate or walk away at that moment?
I think they were still on guard a little bit, and then they walked away. They all started to bleed back into the forest, I think, if I remember correctly.
So did the ground look any different? Like where we were at? Do you remember?
Well, at the site of the last attempt to get back onto Matthew, how we were in that triangle position again, where it made its final stand, there was a burn mark that I could see. It was like red, yellowish, and orange, just like burned out on the ground that I could see.
And you would talk about that for months.
Yeah, because I could still
see that, which
right where it was.
That's where the burn mark is, where that thing was, the demon.
Yeah, which is crazy.
So that was...
I don't even know what that was.
I remember you guys were very exhausted. Matthew was really exhausted. Mm-hmm. And we're heading back on Route 15 north, right? Nothing else happened after that. We were just leaving. It was sort of early, but we're like, let's get out of here. It was pretty traumatic, very traumatic.
Yeah.
And then we're heading on Route 15. You and Matthew were like asleep in the back seat. And I remember driving, all of a sudden I saw a vehicle flying from behind and like going about 100 miles an hour. And I remember I had to swerve over sort of into the breakdown lane, and it came past me and, could have hit us, could have clipped us. And I called 911, and I said, they're like, what's your emergency? Who are you? I said, it doesn't matter who I am. You got to, call the police because this guy is driving like an idiot heading towards Harrisburg. So like, oh, okay. So then I was like freaked out. You guys were still asleep. Mm-hmm. And then we got on the turnpike and we head, back towards our house another hour and a half or an hour. And then we were almost home to bring Matthew home. And I remember we're on a windy road that we always take. and all of a sudden the car in front of me slammed its brakes, and a tree that was about this big had fallen across the road in front of the car in front of us. Mm-hmm. And it hit the guardrail, put a dent in the guardrail, and we were blocked both sides of traffic. And we stopped. I got out. I told you guys stay in the car. Remember, you woke up at that point because you're like, "What's going on?" I said a tree fell in front, almost hit us. And I remember a police officer came on the other side. He said, "I called a friend who's going to come with a chainsaw and stuff." But I said the tree was like a dead tree. It wasn't windy, it wasn't raining. Why did this tree just fall there? Perfect timing, right? Coincidence?
Yeah, it's weird.
I think not. So probably had our name on it is what I think. That's what I totally believe. But I told other people pulling up, getting out, men and women, and I said, let's put our arms around each other and let's rock with our legs and try. It was cracked, like sort of in the middle. I said, let's do this, and we broke it up a little bit. And then I remember looking out of the corner of my eye, and there was a big guy standing there. I didn't look him in the face, but it seemed like a big guy. What did you see, you and Matt?
Well, I remember we went out of the car, like you told us not to do.
Of course.
And we saw you there, and then we saw this, like, really tall and, like, big guy. Like, he was, like, I don't know, one of those people you see dosed up on steroids and stuff. And he was the only one, I think.
Just came out
it was just
nowhere.
You two.
Well, we had the lady, like the men and women were there first. We rocked it.
But they backed up. I remember
because he was
when you guys broke it and pushed it off, it was just you two at that moment.
I remember that part. That was weird. Where did what did you see?
I remember seeing this big guy with a beard and mustache, like brown hair probably. And he had like a green shirt and like cargo or khaki pants on, and he had a baseball hat on. It was either like blue or gray or something. And we watched him help you, but he was like, I don't know, he was massive. 6'something, like 6'6" or something like that, and he was just like huge, massive guy.
And I remember asking it, I just said, "Hey, buddy, can you help me lift this to break it apart, to roll it off the road, for it to open one way?" Yeah. And I remember we were able to do that, and we rolled it, and I mean...
No problem.
Well, and I have, well, most of us, as we get older, we get arthritis in the back or whatever, bulging discs. So, mm-hmm. But we just did it, and he was right there. And then I think I said thank you, and then we turned away. We pushed it to the guardrail.
Yeah.
And then we opened up one lane.
Yeah.
And then what did you see with him?
Then he walked like into the crowd where the people were standing looking at the whole incident, but we would have been able to see him still. But as soon as he walked into those people, he was just gone. And I remember Matthew and I were like what just happened?
Was that?
Like, who was that? That guy was like massive. So yeah, that was crazy to see, experience.
So then we headed back with, like 5 minutes from Matthew's house. We get to Matthew's house and we went in with him. And I said, they're my friends also. And that's Matthew's parents. And we said, we have to tell you something that happened when we were there. And I remember they got very upset and were, because I said something was on Matthew, when you started telling them. And they said, when Matthew was a young man, like 4 years old, they had rented a house or something, or they lived in a house, and they said they called it the Amityville Horror House at the time. And they said that, like, there was a landing or something, then there was a little door on the landing, and they said Matthew would scream when he walked past that area. And I remember you said, that's where it came from.
Yeah,
and I remember
getting
to
chills.
This day, yes. So,
I
mean, and that was, for like 10 years, this thing was on Matthew. And they were like,
not good.
Thanking us, and we told them it's gone, and right, Matthew has been doing awesome.
Totally.
Since then, and I don't even know. Like we said in the last episode, is both his grandpas had asked you and for you and I to help their grandson, and then all this hit the fan. Like I said, it was the most traumatic thing I've ever done in my life and been part of. With Paul, and never forget it. So by the power of God and Jesus, I totally believe that. Whether people believe that or not, it doesn't matter. Until you have an experience like that, watch out, Lucille got me. But true story, very freaky.
Yeah.
And like I said, every time we'd go back there for months, Paul would say, "That's the burnt out area where that thing, where we got that thing." So I think that tree had our name on it. I really do, and same with whatever that was, a drunkard or whatever coming at us. So very scary.
Very weird.
Yeah. So we'll try it. We're going to put some pictures, the picture of the drawing on there. We're going to maybe a few other little pieces of video or something if we could.
Yeah, definitely.
What else about that moment?
I think that's all really, just how crazy it was. But
very crazy.
Just be safe out there, I guess.
Our story, and be safe on Halloween.
Yeah.
And, shout out to Chris, who told me to get closer to the mic so he can hear me.
Shout out to Matthew also.
And I believe Chad, who made me Lucille here. So thank you.
Yeah.
So God bless America. God bless everybody. Get out and vote. Remember.
Yeah. Don't forget.
For America, right?
Don't forget.
God bless everybody.
Take care.